The desert heat rippled across the plains of Falcon Ridge testing grounds, a remote military facility tucked deep in Arizona's unforgiving sands. Today, the elite sharpshooter division assembled under the scorching sun. Soldiers and instructors alike cast skeptical glances as Staff Sergeant Bradley sneered at Private Emily Walker, the only woman selected for the advanced long-range program. "Hold this rifle for the men, sweetheart." He barked, tossing a high-tech firearm into her hands with mock courtesy. Laughter echoed from nearby. "And don't lay a finger on the scope. That thing costs more than your whole training cycle." What Staff Sergeant Bradley didn't know was that the moment he belittled Emily, the course of Falcon Ridge history shifted forever. Emily Walker had never dreamed of becoming a legend. Raised in a quiet corner of northern Idaho, she was the shy girl whose father had her shooting tin cans before she'd even outgrown her light-up sneakers. By 12, she was dropping elk from 900 feet out, earning nods from seasoned hunters twice her age, instead of posters of movie stars. Her bedroom was lined with local shooting trophies and newspaper clippings showcasing her record distances. "Dad, I nailed that target from 850 feet today." She'd beam at the dinner table. Her mother would chuckle and shake her head, but her father, a retired Marine Scout sniper, would proudly nod. "Atta girl." In high school, while her peers fussed over homecoming dresses and college fairs, Emily spent weekends at the local range. The owner, a Vietnam vet named Mac Dorsey, became her mentor. One crisp fall evening, as she packed her gear, he told her, "You've got something special, kid, the kind of skill the Army dreams about." Those words stuck. When military recruiters visited her senior class, Emily was first in line. Her marksmanship test scores left the staff speechless. "Mems, Manuchamut," one recruiter stammered, scanning her results. "And with numbers like these, you could chart your own path." But Emily wasn't interested in easy routes or desk jobs. She wanted to train where the elite competed, where excellence was forged under pressure. Boot camp was routine for her, where others struggled to hit paper targets. She calmly punched bullseyes. "Walker, you sure this is your first time with an M4? Her drill sergeant asked, staring in disbelief after a flawless round. "No, sir. My dad taught me well," she replied. Her records quickly drew attention, fast-tracked through marksmanship certifications, offered a sniper school slot, and selected for experimental weapons testing. At 24, Emily stood under the blinding Arizona sky at Falcon Ridge, cradling a prototype rifle she understood better than its engineers, while being reduced to a prop by a condescending sergeant. What no one realized that morning was that history was about to be made not by a seasoned veteran, but by the quiet sharpshooter from Idaho. Falcon Ridge spanned over 50 square miles of rugged, tactical training land. It served as the proving ground for the military's cutting-edge weaponry, where failure wasn't just expected, but analyzed in detail. That day's centerpiece was the LRX-9 Viper, a state-of-the-art precision rifle built to engage targets at distances previously deemed impossible. Captain Harrison, the lead officer overseeing the demonstration, stood before a group of 12 test shooters and 3 observers. Emily included, this rifle represents a $40 million program, he announced. We're here to evaluate its limits under live desert conditions. Sergeant Bradley puffed his chest and stepped up. I'll be taking point on the live fire tests. Horizontal targets are spread between 309, 800 feet. His eyes lingered on Emily. Cool Walker, you're here to observe. Hold gear when needed and stay clear. Understood? Crystal clear. Sergeant, she answered evenly, despite the flush rising in her cheeks. The test began. Early shots were successful at closer ranges, but as the target distances pushed past 200 feet, issues emerged. The desert shimmered with heat distortion, throwing off the rifle's computerized scope. Damn it, Bradley snarled after missing for the third time at 400 feet. This heat's wrecking the targeting matrix. Captain Harrison furrowed his brow. We need at least one verified hit at max range before we close today's session. As techs huddled over telemetry readouts and scope calibration data, Emily quietly studied the wind flags. She watched how the heat waves bent just above the sand, how the mirage danced left at mid-range and split right at long range. Dust devils swirled and vanished along the firing range. Emily's mind tracked wind shifts and drop calculations automatically, a reflex honed since she was a child, not something she needed to consciously do. Ishnot, during a water break, Sergeant Bradley shoved the rifle back into her hands and, hold this, and don't mess with anything. Standing there like a human tripod, Emily's fingers instinctively ran along the rifle's contour. Her hands noted the center of balance, the trigger tension, the subtle engineering differences from standard Army-issue rifles. What the hell do you think you're doing? Bradley barked, catching her fingers, adjusting the dials. Nothing. Sergeant, she replied calmly. Just holding it like you asked. You think you could do better? His voice rose for the audience now. Little Miss Idaho thinks she can outshoot a Special Forces marksman. A few heads turned. The tension shifted. Something was about to happen. I didn't say that, Sergeant. Emily replied evenly. Well, I'm saying it. Bradley pressed. Stepping closer. You've been giving me that look all morning like you know something the rest of us don't. So come on, Private, enlighten us. What's your big professional opinion? Captain Harrison stepped in. That's enough, Sergeant. With all due respect. Sir. Bradley pushed. If she's got feedback, maybe we should hear it. And this is a test, isn't it? Every gaze landed on Emily. It was a trap. Speak and be mocked. Stay silent and accept her place as background noise. She took a slow breath. The scope calibration is countering the software's compensation algorithms, she said quietly. They're fighting each other. The silence hit hard, unblinking. Come again. Bradley's tone darkened. The manual tweaks you're making, the system is reading them as errors, so it's auto-correcting in the wrong direction. She explained. You have to commit either fully manual or fully automated, not both. Bradley's face twisted in disbelief and fury. 15 years in special operations. And now I'm getting marksmanship lessons from a girl with a clipboard. Sergeant, Harrison snapped. Nah, watch yourself. But Bradley wasn't done. He stepped forward, voice seething. Think just because Daddy showed you how to pop squirrels back in Idaho, you understand long-range ballistics. You think you can outshoot men with confirmed kills at distances you've never even seen. Emily didn't blink. No. Sergeant, you were just forgetting your place. He cut her off. You're standing here because someone upstairs needed to check a diversity box. You're not here because you earned it. He took a breath, then added, next time you've got something to say about marksmanship, do the team a favor, keep it to yourself. The atmosphere went heavy. A few heads turned away. Some clenched jaws, but no one spoke. Captain Harrison stepped in between them. We're done here. Back to work. We still need a confirmed hit. As the team returned to the line, Bradley deliberately brushed her shoulder on the way past. This is men's work, sweetheart. Try not to chip a nail while holding that clipboard. Emily said nothing. Her eyes stayed fixed on the far target, the one none of them had hit all day. In her head, numbers ticked into place. Wind vectors. Temperature. Barometric pressure. Even the Coriolis effect at that latitude. Extreme long-range shooting wasn't just science. It was intuition, repetition, art. What would you do in her boots? Drop a comment if you think the sergeant just stepped way out of line. The afternoon sun pressed down like a hammer as the tech team lined up for one final attempt. Target 7I set at exactly 6. 400 feet remained untouched, mocking them from afar. Its small mirrored plate was barely visible. Even with 30x optics, it represented the maximum effective range of the X-27 system, and so far, no one had come close. Last attempt before we call it, Captain Harrison said, even glancing at his watch. The top brass expects something today. Bradley wiped sweat from his brow and got prone behind the rifle again. 5 misses already. His frustration was palpable. The tech circled in close, tweaking elevation dials and adjusting input feeds, offering quiet suggestions that were met with louder and louder grumbles. The targeting matrix needs a full software recalibration, one technician offered. Voice cautious. What it needs, another muttered just out of earshot, is a shooter who isn't overheating. Emily stood back, a clipboard in hand, appearing to just take notes, but her eyes never stopped scanning. The flags, the heat waves, the mirage fluttering like glass above the sand dunes. Through the scope, something didn't sit right. The calculations weren't aligning, something core was off. Bradley squeezed the trigger again. Ms. Son of a... He bit his tongue as Captain Harrison stepped up behind him. This scope's defective. Bradley snapped. Pilama. Pulling away, the lead technician shook his head. Negative. It's within spec. Environmental distortion is pushing it to the edge of its tolerance. One more try, Captain Harrison said flatly. Then we logged the limitations and reset at dawn as Bradley readied for his final shot. Emily caught it, something the others missed. A faint shift in the upper air layers. Heat rising from the basin floor wasn't just refracting, it was swirling, spiraling, subtle, visible only if you knew how light bent across uneven gradients. Bradley fired. Another missed. That's it, Captain Harrison said, defeated. Pack it in. 0600 tomorrow. Cooler air. Cleaner data. The crew moved with quiet frustration. Shoulders slumped. No cheers. No high fives, just gear stowed in silence. Bradley passed off the rifle to a tech, who began sealing it in a foam-padded case. That's when something snapped inside Emily. She'd taken it all day, Bradley's barbs. The way he looked right through her, treating her like background noise with breasts. But this wasn't about ego. It was about truth, and she was done being invisible. She stepped forward. Captain Harrison. Sir, she said. Voice clear. Request permission for one shot. Everything stopped. Bradley slowly turned. Excuse me. Captain Harrison raised an eyebrow. Say again. Private. One shot. Target 7A. Sir, you Bradley laughed. Loud and bitter. You serious? You want to succeed where 5 soft certified shooters just failed. Emily met his glare. One shot. If I miss, I'll accept full punishment for wasting time and ammo. The techs exchanged looks. One of them, Dr. Morgan, spoke up. Sir, from a data standpoint, one more shot can't hurt. Harrison hesitated, then sighed. Today's already a bust. One more won't change the log. He turned to Emily. One shot. Walker. Make it count. Bradley crossed his arms. This'll be rich. The tech reluctantly passed the rifle to Emily. She accepted it with steady hands. It felt right balanced. Familiar. She didn't rush. She walked to the firing station like she'd been doing it her whole life. Instead of going prone, Emily spent nearly a full minute scanning the terrain. She licked her finger, checked air drift, studied the distorted shimmer through the spotting scope. She noted where dust spiraled, where thermals collapsed. Let's go. Private, Bradley called out. Growing impatient, she ignored him. She made 3 tiny adjustments to the scope. Then she disabled the digital assist completely. All sensors off. She just shut down the AI interface. One tech whispered. She's going full manual. Another replied, intrigued. Emily exhaled. The world fell away. No Bradley. No rank. No doubt. Just her, the rifle, and the shot. Just like those freezing dawns in the Idaho backwoods with her father. The stillness. The waiting. She watched. Felt, measured the flicker of air across the field. She inhaled, held and exhaled halfway, and squeezed the trigger. The crack echoed across the range. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then through the spotter dust burst where target 7A had stood, someone gasped. The digital monitor lit up. Target hit. 9-607 FT confirmed. Dr. Morgan read the screen aloud. First round hit. Manual fire. No assistance. Silence. Every head turned toward Emily. She clicked the safety on, stood up, and stepped back. Captain Harrison was the first to speak. How did you just do that? Before she could answer, the radio crackled. Range control to Alpha Group. Confirm hit on 7A. Repeat. Confirm hitted. Target sensors show complete obliteration. Bradley's face turned ashen. His lips moved, but no sound came out. The tech team swarmed Emily, bombarding her with questions. They asked how I did it, Emily said quietly. Surrounded by engineers and weapons specialists. I just read the wind, and I saw the spiral heat draft in the basin. The computer can't recognize it, but the human eye can. If you know what to look for. Captain Harrison was already on the radio. Dumbservice. You're going to want to hear this. We've got something you'll need to see for yourself. Dr. Morgan approached Emily, eyes filled with respect. Private Walker, that shot was statistically impossible. Not with our current systems. Not even with our most advanced AI scopes. What you just did changes things. Emily allowed herself a brief, half-smile. Not if you grew up shooting between mountain ridges in Idaho. Sir, wind does strange things out there. You learn to read it or you go home with an empty freezer. Around her, the test team scrambled to gather data, log conditions, and debrief. But Emily's eyes drifted across the range, locking with Sergeant Bradley's. He stood alone now. That smugness wiped from his face. In its place, disbelief, maybe even fear. For the first time, he knew everyone had seen it. He hadn't just been outshot, he'd been dismantled in public, and by the woman he'd mocked all day. By nightfall, Falcon Ridge was buzzing. The story spread like wildfire. The silent private who hit a ghost target that tech couldn't touch. By mornings, it had reached high command. The next day, Emily sat quietly in the mess hall. The room was filled with stares and whispers. She kept her eyes on her eggs, trying to tune it all out. A shadow fell across her tray. She looked up to find Captain Harrison, and beside him, a tall, rigid man with silver hair and a folder in hand. Private Walker. Harrison said, formal. This is Colonel Wagner, Director of Advanced Weapons Programs at the Army Marksmanship Unit. Emily stood at attention. Sir. At ease, the Colonel said, eyes narrowing as he studied her. Mind if we join you? They sat. Wagner placed the folder between them. I reviewed the data, he said without small talk. I spoke to the witnesses. I have one question. He leaned in. Was that shot luck? Private Walker. Emily didn't blink. No. Sir, could you repeat it? Yes. Sir, under similar conditions. Colonel Wagner nodded slowly. You just broke the record for first-round precision fire at our facilities. That record belonged to Master Sergeant James Harding. 3 tours and an Olympic alternate. Emily absorbed the words in silence. Our computers say that shot shouldn't be possible without predictive AI correction. Wagner continued. And yet, you disabled all that. They were overcorrecting. Sir, Emily explained calmly. Those algorithms weren't designed for the thermal vortex in that valley. I've seen it before. Back home, we'd spot it by how it bends light above ridge lines. Wagner exchanged a glance with Harrison. You observed it. Yes, said Sir Chuckle. You can't teach it from a book. You have to feel it. Wagner sat back, clearly impressed. Private, I've been shooting for 30 years, including 2 Olympic bids. I've never heard anyone describe Mirage that way. Just then, noise erupted at the mess hall entrance. Bradley walked in with his usual crowd, but stopped cold when he saw Emily seated with the officers. His jaw clenched. I believe, Wagner murmured, following Emily's gaze. You've stirred the pot. He's filed a complaint. Harrison said flatly. Emily's heart sank. A complaint. Yes. He's alleging you violated protocol, interfered in a controlled testing scenario, and endangered the integrity of the project. Captain Harrison scowled. It's nonsense. He's trying to cover his own failure. What happens now? Emily asked quietly. Wagner gave her a small smile, the first since he sat down. Now we deal with Sergeant Bradley's fragile ego. He stood. Captain, please escort Private Walker to Conference Room A. There's a team from Fort Benning eager to meet her. As they exited the mess hall, Bradley deliberately stepped into their path. Sir, he said stiffly, addressing Wagner while ignoring Emily entirely. Didn't expect to see you on base today. I've prepared a full report outlining yesterday's irregularities. Oh, have you? Wagner's tone chilled. Oh, how proactive of you. Sergeant. Yes, sir. The unauthorized firing of experimental hardware by unqualified personnel is a serious... Sergeant Bradley. Colonel Wagner cut him off, his voice sharp. Do you know who I am? Bradley blinked. Yes. Sir, you're the Director of Advanced Weapons Development. And do you know why I flew in at 0400 this morning on a priority military transport? I assumed it was about the incident. Sir. Correct. Wagner stepped closer. I came because Private Emily Walker accomplished what your entire team failed to do after multiple calibrated attempts. She demonstrated a level of marksmanship that frankly makes your performance look primitive by comparison. The mess hall was now silent. Every eye had turned to the confrontation. But, She what? Sergeant. Wagner's voice was like ice. She embarrassed you. She exposed your prejudice. She proved you wrong publicly and in front of command witnesses. Bradley's face flushed deep crimson. Report to my office at 0900, Wagner ordered. We'll review your complaint, along with the numerous violations of conduct I personally witnessed on the range security feed." He turned away without another word. Bradley stood frozen, then snapped a tight salute and marched off. His loyal entourage scattered, avoiding eye contact. Captain Harrison leaned toward Emily, grinning. "I've waited 3 years to see someone knock Bradley off his pedestal. Is he always like that?" she asked. "Worse," Harrison said. "He's lived off his Special Forces badge for a decade, bullying everyone under him. But yesterday, he chuckled. Yesterday, you shattered more than a shooting record." They reached the door to Conference Room A. Inside, high-ranking officers and civilian specialists sat around a large table, folders and laptops open. "They've been reviewing your entire file," Harrison whispered. "Entrance scores, rifle qualifications, psychological profiles. Why, sir?" Wagner, standing behind her, answered. Because Private Walker, we rarely find raw talent like yours in this lifetime. What you did wasn't just impressive, it was unprecedented." Emily's pulse quickened. As she stepped into the room, she felt the air change, charged with curiosity, scrutiny, and something else. Opportunity. 6 people looked up as she entered. She stood at attention. Private Emily Walker, reporting as ordered. "Sir," a silver-haired general nodded. "At ease." "Private, I'm General Harkins. These are representatives from the Army's Advanced Training Division." Emily relaxed slightly. She noticed the mix of uniforms and civilian attire. One woman, wearing a tailored gray suit, observed her with keen interest. Please, have a seat," the general instructed. She sat, back straight. "What you accomplished yesterday," he continued, "has generated considerable attention across command channels." He leaned forward. "Let's be clear. That shot at that distance, on the first attempt, with no computational aid, is historically unprecedented." "Thank you, sir," Emily replied simply. "That wasn't a compliment." He clarified. "It was a fact. The question now is, was it skill or luck?" The civilian woman spoke. "Skill," she said. "My review of her shooting record shows consistency in the 99th percentile. This isn't an anomaly, it's a pattern." The general nodded. "This is Dr. Shepard. She leads our advanced sniper development program. She believes you may possess sensory and spatial processing abilities we currently don't test for." Emily took a breath. "The rifle's onboard systems are built to account for known variables: wind speed, humidity, elevation, temperature, but they can't detect what my father used to call wind rivers." Wind rivers." "Dr. Shepard echoed. "Yeah," Emily said. "Airstreams moving in different directions and speeds at varying layers. They snake through valleys like invisible rivers. Yesterday, there was a thermal spiral created by heat inversion. I spotted it by how the light bent off the dust columns and heat waves." The room went still. She continued. The algorithms overcorrected. The human eye, if trained, can detect patterns the systems miss. Dr. Shepard tapped her pen thoughtfully. Have you been formally trained to detect mirage or heat distortion? No. Books. But I've hunted in Idaho backcountry since I was 5. When you need to take down an elk from 600 yards with a 308 and wind gusts slicing through canyon walls, you learn or you go hungry. General Harkins glanced at Dr. Shepard. She's describing real-time multivariable pattern recognition, not something our training protocols teach. Exactly. Dr. Shepard said, it's innate, maybe genetic, either way. It's measurable and replicable. Emily shifted uncomfortably. So what happens now? Wagner answered from behind her. We offer you a spot in a classified precision development initiative. You'd train with a Black Ops unit, learn how to apply that instinct at the tactical level. Under operational pressure, Emily blinked. Sir, you want me to be a sniper. More than that. Harkins said, we want you to help us redefine what elite marksmanship means. She swallowed hard, and Sergeant Bradley, Wagner's expression didn't change, will be reassigned, quietly. He looked her in the eye. Let me be perfectly clear. Private Walker, yesterday, you didn't just hit a target. You hit the limit of what we thought was possible. What to look for, the way the heat waves bent light at different heights. Emily explained. The system averaged those distortions, which threw off every shot by just enough to miss. By switching to full manual, I adjusted for the real conditions, not what the software thought they were. One of the senior officers leaned in. And how exactly did you learn to read these wind rivers? Vividament, my father, sir. He was a Marine Scout sniper in Desert Storm. He taught me to hunt in the mountains of northern Idaho where these conditions happen all the time. If you can't read the air, you miss your shot and go home hungry. Dr. Shepard's eyes sparkled. That's exactly what I suspected. You've developed an intuitive grasp of advanced ballistics that our systems can't replicate. It's not that the tech is flawed. It's that you're perceiving variables we haven't taught machines to see. Before Emily could respond, the door slammed open. Sergeant Bradley stormed in, his face tight with anger. A flustered admin officer chased after him. I'm sorry. Sir, she said to General Harkins. He insisted. It's fine. Earn it, Harkins said, though his voice hardened. His eyes locked on Bradley. Shedidus. Sergeant, this is a closed meeting. Bradley's face was flushed. With respect. Sir, I need to speak before this goes any further. Private Walker violated a direct order and testing protocol. She's being rewarded for insubordination, and it sets a dangerous precedent. The air in the room chilled. Sergeant Bradley, General Harkins said coolly, are you implying I don't understand military protocol? Bradley's voice caught. No. Sir, because from where I stand, the general cut him off. You just interrupted a meeting of senior command officers without clearance. The font started with that. Sergeant, is insubordination. Bradley's jaw clenched. Sir, I'm only trying to ensure proper procedures. Private Walker is receiving special treatment because she did what you couldn't, Doctor. Shepard interjected, her tone glacial, because she made your performance look average by comparison. She got lucky. Bradley snapped. One miracle shot and suddenly she's a legend. She's a logistics clerk who outshot trained marksmen while they watched. Colonel Wagner's voice boomed as he entered behind Bradley, who demonstrated an intuitive understanding of atmospheric ballistics that our most advanced systems can't match, and who, by the way, scores in the top percentile of every weapons qualification she's taken. Bradley turned, his expression darkening. Sir, with respect, this is still a disciplinary issue. She defied orders? No, she didn't, said Captain Harrison, stepping in from the hall. I gave her authorization to fire. I was the officer in charge of the test. It was my call. Bradley scanned the room, suddenly realizing he had no support. He glared at Emily. This isn't over. Private. He hissed. You've made a fool of the wrong man. That's enough. Sergeant, General Harkins said, standing. You're dismissed. Report to Colonel Wagner's office immediately. Bradley stood for a moment, visibly restraining himself. Then, military discipline took over. He snapped a tight salute, turned on his heel, and marched out in stiff silence. Once the door closed, Doctor, Shepard looked to Emily. You've certainly kicked the hornet's nest. Private Walker, I didn't mean to, ma'am. Emily said honestly, I just knew I could make that shot. General Harkins retook his seat. Well, that skill and the quiet confidence behind it has opened some very interesting doors. He slid a folder across the table. What do you know about the Army Marksmanship Unit's precision team? Emily's eyes widened. They're the best of the best. Sir. Olympic-tier shooters. Exactly. He nodded. They start their next selection course at Fort Benning next week. The weight of it hit her like a shock wave. Sir, are you saying? I'm saying. Harkins interrupted. That sometimes one shot changes everything. He gestured to the folder. Those are your orders. You ship out tomorrow morning. Emily stared down at the papers, stunned. From hunting elk in the cold valleys of Idaho to this room filled with ranking officers. Her entire world had changed. She wasn't just a supply clerk anymore. She wasn't invisible. She was Emily Walker sharpshooter, record breaker, and future legend. Potential elite shooter, and somewhere on base, Sergeant Bradley was just beginning to realize that every attempt he'd made to tear her down had only launched her further into a stratosphere he'd never touch. Get ready because the next chapter is coming, and it's going to be epic. Hit subscribe if you're ready to watch the arrogant get put in their place. The military transport plane touched down at Fort Bragg with a low rumble as Emily Walker stepped off the steel staircase onto the tarmac. The thick North Carolina humidity clung to her uniform like a second skin. A harsh change from the arid winds of Falcon Ridge A stocky staff sergeant stood by a tan military SUV, holding a clipboard. "Private Walker," he called as she approached. "Staff Sergeant Wyatt. I'll be driving you to the AMU facility." The Army Marksmanship Unit compound was isolated from the rest of Fort Bragg's infrastructure, surrounded by pine woods and secured ranges as they drove past the tree line. Wyatt glanced at her in the mirror. "You're the one who made that shot out in Falcon Ridge. In Muttumut. 750 yards. No computer assist. That true?" "Yes." "Sergeant," Emily replied evenly. Wyatt gave a long, impressed whistle. "You just walked into a den of eagles, and not all of them are gonna like what you represent. I'm used to that," she said quietly. "Yeah." He nodded. "Bet you are." The AMU headquarters was sleek, modern, and humming with quiet discipline. As the SUV rolled to a stop, Emily saw a handful of shooters outside the building lean, confident men with AMU insignias on their uniforms. Watching her arrival with thinly disguised curiosity, "Your audience," Wyatt muttered with a smirk. Break a leg." Private. Inside, she was escorted into a conference room where 3 officers waited. The man in charge was a sharp-eyed colonel with a runner's build. "Private Walker. I'm Colonel Marks, commanding officer of the AMU. This is Major Hendricks and Captain Shaw. They oversee long-range precision selection." Private Walker reporting. "Sir." Emily snapped a salute. "At ease," said Colonel Marks. "Let's not waste time. That shot in Falcon Ridge, it's got half the Pentagon talking. Some say it's impossible. Some say it's luck. What do you say?" "I say I can do it again." "Yes, sir," she answered without blinking. The officers exchanged subtle glances. "Bold statement," said Major Hendricks. "Selection starts tomorrow. But how do you feel about a little Alatambas demonstration this afternoon?" "I'm ready whenever you are." "Sir?" Captain Shaw finally cracked a grin. "I like her." 2 hours later, Emily was on the AMU's precision course, a 500-meter range carved into a clearing lined with pine. Word had spread. A crowd of AMU personnel and elite shooters stood behind the barricades, their eyes fixed on the woman who'd made headlines overnight. "Standard drill," explained Major Hendricks. 5 shots. Tightest grouping wins. You'll be going up against Staff Sergeant Brooks," added Shaw. "He's our reigning long-range champ." Brooks stepped forward. Tall, kudumunus, square-jawed, his presence radiating practiced dominance. He gave her a once-over. Lips curling. "Ladies first," he said mockingly. Emily didn't flinch. She stepped to the line and settled behind a customized M110 SAS adjusted for precision competition. Her fingers brushed the bolt. Her eyes scanned the tree line. The wind was subtle, but it danced differently at the tree canopy and ground level. She felt it shift, it rises, and swirl. She waited. Then 5 clean trigger pulls. 5 hits, all within a 2-inch spread at nearly a mile. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Brooks took position, now less smirking than focused. His first 4 shots were razor-tight, matching Emily's group. Then came a gust small. Oh, chaotic, but real. Brooks hesitated, adjusted. Ugh, fired. The final round landed just outside his group. Round goes to Private Walker, announced Major Hendricks, his voice carrying a tinge of surprise. Brooks stood slowly. His face gave nothing away. Lucky gust. He muttered. Call it lucky if you want, Emily said, not unkindly. But that crosswind hit the east tree line 30 seconds before it reached the range. Leaves started flickering out of rhythm. Brooks turned, staring down the range, then up at the trees. You saw that from here. Situational awareness. Emily shrugged. My dad always said, don't just look at the target. Read the world around it. Brooks studied her in silence for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded, not in defeat but in recognition, the kind only a real shooter gives. Your father must have been one hell of a shooter. Emily nodded quietly. He was Marine Scout sniper. Passed away 3 years ago. Something shifted in Staff Sergeant Brooks' expression. Miss Tom Walker. Fallujah. Emily's head snapped up. You knew my father. Heard of him. Brooks corrected. His shot from the Fallujah Hotel 2. 400 yards through crosswinds that grounded Black Hawks. That day's legend among snipers. He extended his hand. Didn't make the connection until now. You're Tom Walker's daughter, as their hands met. The mood changed. What started as a test, a woman proving herself to doubting eyes, had become something more. Emily wasn't just another recruit. She was legacy, and it carried weight. The next morning, the AMU qualification course began. 20 shooters, 3 spots. The stakes were high. So were the standards. The tests were brutal firing from unstable platforms after sprint drills, simulated combat stress. Heat, wind, unpredictability. One by one, the field thinned day after day. Emily remained. By the final day, just 5 remained. Emily Walker, Staff Sergeant Brooks, and 3 seasoned competitors with championship medals on their jackets. Then came the announcement. Final test. Extreme long-distance precision fire under combat fatigue. Colonel Marks declared. Target is at 400 yards. You'll run a half-mile in full kit. Arrive at the firing point and have 30 seconds to fire. 1 shot. 1 hit. Brooks jogged beside Emily as they headed towards staging. You know they designed this final just for you, right? They want to see if Falcon Ridge was a fluke. I figured, Emily said. He grinned. Guys have started calling you One-Shot Walker. Ain't no pressure. When her turn came, Emily ran hard, gear pounding against her frame. Her breath was ragged as she dropped to the mat. 28 seconds left. Everything fell away. The rifle, the wind, the target in the distance, and in the quiet of her mind, her father's voice. Don't fight the air. Feel it. She exhaled slowly. Fired. The distant steel rang out. A pause. Then cheers erupted. Colonel Marks walked straight to her, extended a hand. And, congratulations, Skirdenowitz, Specialist Walker. Promotion orders are processed. Even the skeptics clapped. In 1 week, Emily had gone from supply room obscurity to AMU elite. That night, as she packed her new gear, a ping came on her phone. An email from Captain Harrison, her old CO at Falcon Ridge. Thought you'd want to know. Sergeant Bradley's been reassigned to inventory at Fort Irwin. Seems his skills are better suited for counting ammo than using it. Your old bunkmate sent this from his going-away party. Attached was a short video. Bradley's former teammates were handing him a coffee mug. Snickering. The camera zoomed in. Outshot by a girl. Justice, it turned out. Wore many faces. Before you scroll, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments. We want to see how far Emily's story has traveled. And if that twist with Bradley made you smile, smash that like. 6 months passed in a blur. Specialist Emily Walker was no longer an underdog. She was a name, a presence. She racked up competition wins, redefined performance standards, and became the AMU's quiet storm. Her skills sharpened by coaching, forged by instinct, was now undeniable. Then, one crisp autumn morning, she was summoned to Colonel Marks' office. To her surprise, 2 men in civilian suits stood waiting. The room felt different. Specialist Walker reporting. "Sir," she said, saluting, at ease. Said Colonel Marks, "These gentlemen are with JSOC Joint Special Operations Command. They've been following your file closely." The older man extended his hand. "Richard Keller, this is my associate. It is almost Mark Dawson. We've been very impressed." Emily shook their hands, sensing the weight in their presence. "Elizabeth, thank you, sir," Emily said firmly. Keller didn't waste time. "How familiar are you with Task Force Ember?" "Specialist." Emily's heart picked up. She'd heard the name whispered around Fort Benning, always low, always cautious. An elite, surgical precision unit, black ops, deniable missions, classified beyond top secret, only by reputation. "Sir, good." Keller nodded. "Then you understand the discretion required." Colonel Mark slid a folder across his desk. The cover was stamped in deep red. "Eyes only. Task Force Ember is assembling a specialized team." Keller continued. "Your skill set was specifically requested. This isn't marksmanship competition. This is operational deployment." Emily opened the folder. Operation Hollow Reach. Objective: target acquisition and elimination at extreme distance. Estimated deployment: 72 hours. Location: classified. Risk level: high. Her breath caught. "This is," she began, eyes scanning redacted sections and chilling phrases. "Not a drill," said the other man, Mark Dawson, speaking for the first time. "Real-world application. We need someone who can make the impossible shot in unpredictable terrain." Under pressure, Colonel Marks leaned forward. It's voluntary. Walker, your position here at AMU is secure either way. Emily thought of her father. The quiet looks, the late calls, the unopened letters. She now understood what those nights meant. When do I leave? London. Immediately. Keller replied. Pack light. Gear will be issued at the forward station. Yomund 24 hours later, Emily was airborne in a C-130 heading west. Destination undisclosed. Surrounding her were 6 men operators from Task Force Ember. These weren't competitors. They were predators. Quiet. Focused. Every movement efficient. Their leader, Captain James Harris, began the briefing mid-flight. Target, Victor Drazen, international arms broker, supplies rogue cells across Eastern Europe, North Africa, and parts of South America. He's holed up in a mountain fortress in the Rockies. Thinking he's untouchable, satellite photos appeared. A sleek compound nestled high in a pine-covered basin. Guard patrols, anti-air defense, rugged terrain. We've failed to get close twice. Harris continued. Too many guards. Too many exits. We need a shot from outside the net. He pointed to a jagged ridgeline nearly 2 miles out. Firing position will be here. Distance. 60 yards. Through erratic high-altitude wind layers, one operator let out a whistle. That's pushing the edge of possible. That's why we brought Walker. Harris said, nodding toward her. She's already made harder shots at Falcon Ridge. The team sniper, Master Sergeant Ben Wheeler, glanced sideways at Emily. His tone was blunt. With all due respect. Sir, that it? Range drills are one thing. Live combat's another. Has she ever pulled a trigger under real fire? Emily looked at him. Calm. Not the kind you mean. No. Wheeler folded his arms. Care to explain? My dad was recon Marine. Every shooting trip was a mission. Wake up before dawn. Hike 5 miles in frost. Wind drills when your fingers can't feel the trigger. If I missed, we didn't eat. Her eyes locked with his. It wasn't combat. Master Sergeant. But I know pressure. A faint smirk tugged at his mouth. Fair enough. Then his expression grew serious again. This won't be a static oppo. We've got a 60-hour trek. Elevation gain. Exposure. No resupply. Hostile airspace and zero margin for error. I grew up in the Montana highlands. Emily said without blinking. I've camped in blizzards and outrun wolves. I can handle your mountain. Captain Harris interjected. She's vetted. Wheeler. White House clearance. If we had doubts, she wouldn't be here. Wheeler nodded slowly, then extended a calloused hand. Looking forward to seeing you shoot. Walker. That Falcon Ridge clip. Legend. With the tension cut, the squad spent the rest of the flight reviewing mission profiles, extraction routes, and weather contingencies. Satellite uplinks showed swirling jet streams over the Rockies. Emily took notes in silence. At 0200 hours, the C-130 touched down on a remote airstrip in Utah. From there, A Black Hawk inserted them deep into unmarked territory. They moved fast, silent, no lights, just moon and compass. The hike was brutal. Altitude climbed, snow flurried, oxygen thinned, but Emily kept pace. On day 2, they reached the forward OP. The ridge lay 2 peaks away, bitter cold. High wind and a steep drop overlooking the target zone. The final night, they huddled in bivy sacks under a stand of evergreens. Emily stared at the stars, remembering the exact words her father once whispered. Your heartbeat has to be slower than your breath. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow, it was time. Protocols had been reviewed, and Emily Walker absorbed every detail, asking sharp, technical questions about terrain angles, weather shifts, and long-range visibility. 36 hours later, the team was deep in the Rocky Mountains, maneuvering through treacherous ridgelines and narrow switchbacks. The thin air at elevation made each breath feel earned, but Emily matched the elite operators step for step, never complaining. Louvre, never lagging. Monogodinam by the 3rd day. They arrived at their assigned overlook, a natural rock shelf with unobstructed view lines into the valley below. The target compound lay exactly 177 miles away. Right on time, Captain Harrison murmured, checking his watch. Intel says Volkov lands in 3 hours. Let's get into position and hold. While the rest of the unit set up perimeter security and comms, Master Sergeant Wheeler and Emily began configuring the sniper post. The weapon, an enhanced MK-22 sniper platform, outfitted with high-precision custom rounds, was pieced together with flawless discipline. Wind's gonna be your biggest hurdle, Wheeler noted, peering through his scope across the canyon. See the current twisting between those 3 peaks. Funnel effect. Total chaos. Emily studied the wind behavior. Not chaos, just complexity. Watch the pine branches. It's a triple rotation. The gusts bounce off the north ridge, swing east, then tumble back through the basin center. Wheeler lowered his scope and gave her a long look. I'll be damned. You're absolutely right. A slow shake of admiration. Your father taught you well. He did, Emily said softly. Reminds me of Bitterroot Valley back home. Same circular turbulence in early spring as the hours ticked on. Satellite confirmation came in. Volkov had arrived through high-power optics. The arms trafficker could be seen moving about his fortress, always flanked by guards, never lingering in one place. We need him stationary for 5 seconds. Wheeler whispered, preferably near a window. Captain Harrison's voice crackled through the headset. Update. Volkov is due on a video call from his office in exactly 17 minutes. That's our window. His office has bullet-resistant glass, Wheeler added grimly. Not at the seams. Emily countered. She'd memorized the building layout. If he stands in front of the eastern-facing window, there's a vulnerability 2 panels meet there. Wheeler nodded, impressed. Good eye. But threading that gap from nearly 2 miles, you'll be shooting through a keyhole in a hurricane. Just give me the wind vectors, Emily replied, her voice focused and even. The seconds crawled, then movement. Volkov entered the office. Two bodyguards trailed him but were quickly dismissed. He shut the door, walked to the desk directly in front of the window. Target acquired, Wheeler whispered. Winds variable steady 12 knots out of northwest, fluctuating northeast every 45 seconds. Emily noted it all. Her breath slowed, her heartbeat leveled. The entire world funneled down to three elements. The rifle, the wind, and the mark. Breathe, squeeze, follow through. She whispered. Her father's voice echoed in her head. She watched the air currents, the sway of pine needles. She counted beats in the breeze, then perfect alignment. She pulled the trigger. The MK-22 jumped slightly against her shoulder. Through the glass, she tracked the bullet's flight, an eternity compressed into one perfect arc. Then, all impact. Volkov slumped instantly. Target down. Wheeler confirmed, his voice tinged with awe. Clean strike, right through the seam. Within minutes, the team was dismantling equipment and prepping for extraction. As Emily folded her rifle, Wheeler stepped beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. That shot through unpredictable winds, at that range, into a seam no wider than a credit card that wasn't marksmanship. He said. That was art. Captain Harrison's voice came through comms. Extraction in 15. Good work, Sierra team. As they hiked away from the overlook, Emily was flooded with emotion, quiet pride in her ability, sober reflection on what it meant to take a life, and the overwhelming sense that her father would have understood every bit of it. 3 days later, back on American soil, Emily sat once again across from Colonel Davis inside Fort Moore's operations wing. Seated beside him was Richard Keller, a thick dossier in his hands. Operation Mountain Shadow was a complete success, Keller said without ceremony. Your shot has already become legendary in certain circles. Specialist Walker. Colonel Davis smiled. What he means is, you've impressed some very important people. Keller slid the folder across the desk. This is a formal invitation to join Task Force Falcon as a permanent operator. Full classification clearance, elite training, and deployment alongside the finest precision units in the world. Emily opened the folder, eyes scanning its contents with rising disbelief. This wasn't just a transfer, it was admission into a world her father had only alluded to, a world where top-tier operators took on missions so impossible. They never made it into public record. There's one more thing. Keller added. Given your performance, we've expedited your promotion. Congratulations. Sergeant Walker, as Emily exited the office, freshly signed orders in hand, she spotted Brooks waiting in the hallway. Heard you were back, he said with a grin. Also heard some chatter about what you did up there. He nodded toward the folder. As Task Force Falcon. That's a serious leap. News travels fast, Emily remarked. Only the impressive stuff. Brooks extended a hand. Your father would be proud. Sergeant Walker, as their hands met, Emily felt something shift, a chapter closing. From a quiet girl learning wind math in the hills of western Montana, to the underestimated recruit at Falcon Ridge, to now, Sergeant Emily Walker, elite shooter with Task Force Falcon. And somewhere she was sure of it, Sergeant Bradley was grinding his teeth, remembering the day he dismissed her as a clipboard-carrying nobody. 1 year later, Fort Liberty, North Carolina, Specialized Training Division Headquarters. Sergeant Walker stood at the front of a classroom filled with 30 top-tier snipers from across military branches. Her lecture on interpreting complex wind systems had just ended, and the room hung in stunned silence. "Questions?" she asked, scanning the room of hardened warfighters, many with more years in uniform than she'd been alive. A grizzled Navy SEAL in the back raised his hand, with respect. "Sergeant, what you're describing sounds damn near impossible. Reading thermal layers at that distance without gear, that takes more than just a sharp eye." Emily nodded. She'd expected that. I thought the same until my father showed me how. It's not about seeing heat. It's about spotting how heat affects what you can see: dust drift, light bends, tree response. Everything reacts to the invisible. Before anyone could respond, the classroom door opened. Instantly, everyone snapped to attention. General Harkins entered, the top officer of Joint Special Operations Command. "As you were," he said, stepping beside Emily. "Looks like Sergeant Walker's sharing her talents. Consider yourselves lucky." He turned to face the group. "Then what she's teaching, it's not in any manual. Because frankly, no one else does what she does." He looked them over. "In the past year, we've had 3 ops our simulations said were unworkable. She completed all 3. That's why every advanced sniper unit in this command is now required to train in her methodology." Turning back to Emily, he added, "Carry on." "Sergeant, I came by to deliver a message myself." Once he left, Emily resumed with quiet authority. The skepticism had vanished. Operators who once rolled their eyes were now scribbling notes furiously. After the session, General Harkins waited in the hallway. "Walk with me." Sergeant." They moved down the corridor. "The President's taken a personal interest in your results, Walker," he said calmly. "Not just your marksmanship, but what you represent. A new face to our capabilities." Emily kept her posture steady. "I'm just doing my duty, sir, with unprecedented results." He replied. "Your shot at Falcon Ridge was the spark. You've rewritten what's possible in long-range ops." They stopped near a tall window overlooking the training yard. Down below, new recruits climbed ropes and vaulted barriers. "Next month, we're hosting the Allied Precision Invitational. Top shooters from Britain's SAS, Canada's JTF-2, Israel's Sayeret Matkal, Australia's SASR. The President wants you to represent the United States." Emily took a breath. She understood. This wasn't just a competition, it was a statement. It was a woman, alone, taking the shot for her country in front of the world's elite. "There's more," Mitchell continued. "Sergeant Major Thompson is retiring. His position-led instructor at the Advanced Sniper School is about to open. Your name's at the top of the list. Sir, I'm honored, Emily replied, but I'm still fairly junior in rank for that post. Mitchell gave a rare smile, which is why you're being promoted. Captain Walker has a nice ring to it. Don't you think? Before Emily could fully process that, Mitchell's aide stepped up, holding a phone. Urgent call from CENTCOM. Server. As the general stepped away, Emily looked out over the training yard. From being dismissed and doubted at Falcon Ridge to now possibly becoming Captain Emily Walker, head instructor at the most elite sniper school in the world, personally recognized by the President of the United States. The general returned. His demeanor changed, deadly serious. Plans have changed. Walker, I need you wheels up in 60 minutes. Situations developing overseas. I can't brief details here, but it's top tier. I understand. Sir, Emily said, already mentally switching gears. I'll be ready. As she moved quickly to gear up, her phone buzzed a notification from an anonymous military relay. A headline flashed. Former instructor demoted following discrimination probe. The article detailed how Sergeant Bradley, after his reassignment to Fort Irwin, had become the subject of a full investigation. The report revealed a long-standing pattern of discriminatory behavior toward female personnel. His application to return to Falcon Ridge as a senior instructor had been denied, and he'd been demoted to corporal. The last line quoted a senior official. Judgment in today's military is based solely on merit and character. Nothing else. Emily allowed herself a quiet smile before pocketing the phone. As justice, she thought, has its own pace, but it always arrives. 90 minutes later, she was airborne headed to another classified location, toward another impossible shot, the kind only she could make, because in this new era, what mattered wasn't gender, or looks, or legacy. It was skill, it was execution, and it was courage under pressure. As the cargo plane thundered through the clouds, Emily thought of the young women who would follow, who would face their own Sergeant Bradleys, their own moments of doubt. She hoped her story would give them strength, that they would know ceilings are made to be shattered, that every sneer, every smirk, was just another reason to aim higher. 2 weeks later, after successfully completing the classified mission, Captain Emily Walker stood proudly on the parade platform at Fort Liberty. General Mitchell fastened the new rank insignia on her chest, and through a secure live feed, the President of the United States watched the ceremony. Captain Walker, the President said, your country is proud of you, not just for what you've accomplished, but for what you represent, excellence that transcends outdated boundaries. As the applause faded, a young female private approached hesitantly. Captain Walker, I just wanted to say, you're why I enlisted. I saw the report about you breaking the record at Falcon Ridge and thought, if she can do it, maybe I can too. Emily smiled. Looking into the private's eyes, she saw her younger self, same spark, same fire. What's your name? Private Jennifer Collins. Ma'am Punduma. Utudakamam. Well, Private Collins, Emily said gently. Let me tell you what my father told me when I thought I wasn't enough. The only limits that matter are the ones you agree to. Oh, she smiled. And I don't agree to many. As she walked away, her phone buzzed again. A message from Staff Sergeant Brooks. Still at the AMU. You're not going to believe this. They're naming the new long-range facility at Falcon Ridge after your father, the Timothy Walker Precision Range. Full circle, Emily thought, from the little girl learning to shoot on cold Montana ridges to the woman carrying forward a name that would now inspire generations. That night, alone in her quarters, she opened a small wooden box she always kept close. Inside were her father's dog tags and a faded photo father and daughter. Rifles slung, standing shoulder to shoulder, smiling under a wide Montana sky. We did it. Dad, she whispered, and we showed them all. Outside, the stars glittered over Fort Liberty, the same stars that had once guided her through freezing sniper missions, the same ones her father taught her to navigate by. Different paths, same light, bearing witness to a story that had only just begun. Because for Captain Emily Walker, once mocked as just a girl with a clipboard, the impossible was always just another shot away. If this story moved you, if Emily Walker's journey lit a fire inside, don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button. Share this video and help us honor the quiet warriors who break barriers with every step. Because somewhere out there, another Emily is watching, and your click might just give her the courage to pull the trigger on her own impossible dream. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next mission.